morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. It's an exciting time to serve at the forefront of America's growing workforce. Under this administration's pro-growth agenda, the economy has skyrocketed and unemployment has plummeted. Since January 2017, more than 6 million jobs were added to the economy, and unemployment has remained at or below 4% for 19 straight months. This is tremendous news for all Americans looking to find family-sustaining wages and fulfilling careers. With over 7 million job openings, there are now more job vacancies than there are job seekers. The abundance of jobs represents a real challenge for everyone in this room, and I'm excited about the untapped potential for state and local workforce agencies to grow in leadership for their communities. One of the main topics of the conference today will be about the future of work and how we should respond to an ever-changing economy. It is true that in some sectors of the economy, we will see an increased reliance on technology. But keep in mind, not all jobs take place behind a computer desk. I would challenge you to approach the issue with the understanding that the future of work can look different for everyone. This is why the Employment Training Administration of the Department of Labor is investing in multiple pathways for students and workers to find meaningful careers. How we respond to an ever-changing economy must be innovative, focusing on outcomes rather than measuring opportunities because we get stuck in routines or patterns. In order to fulfill the promise to America's workforce, we must have a top-to-bottom reimagination of how job seekers interact with our workforce system. One way to plan for the future of work is to equip our workers with on-the-job training instead of waiting years for the completion of a degree. Increasingly in the United States, and especially for our friends in Europe, the rise of skilled trades has coincided with the resurgence in apprenticeships, where employers can learn and earn at the same time. Consider, for example, that in Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, 55 to 70% of young people begin their career with an apprenticeship. In contrast, registered apprenticeships make up only 0.3% of the overall workforce in America. The United States can learn a lot from what works in other regions of the world and target our training dollars appropriately to better serve our customers. There are several ways that ETA is aggressively working towards this goal. This year, the department launched efforts to expand apprenticeship pathways to equip workers with the skills needed for the next generation economy, and has awarded $183 million for scaling apprenticeships through sector-based strategies, and made an additional $100 million available through the Closing the Skill Gap grant program. We emphasize skill building because after the completion of a registered apprenticeship program, the average starting wage is $70,000, and 94% of apprentices will retain employment. Programs like these provide immense benefit to job seekers and employers alike, and are crucial to our response to a changing economy. Another way we can prepare for the future of work is through the better use of market data. State workforce agencies can help plan for the economy of the future by paying close attention to labor market information for their specific communities. There should not be a need to speculate or guess about which jobs are in demand because we have vast resources available to help inform our work. We need state workforce agencies to take advantage of the market information and let the data help inform their workforce approach. I also encourage every state workforce agency to develop close relationships with their governor's office in their states because they set the policy vision for the workforce dollars and how they are spent. State workforce agencies can help place workers in high-demand industries by smartly forecasting what is next on the horizon and staying in tune with local leaders. As Scott mentioned, before my time at ETA, I served as the Executive Director of Kentucky's Office of Employment and Training. Because I've worked on both the state and federal level, I appreciate the issues that affect our work when we receive a lack of federal guidance, or even worse, conflicting federal guidance. It is my goal as Assistant Secretary of ETA to clear the runway so that nothing can hold the states back from completing their work and on our shared mission, which is helping Americans find meaningful work. Our way to accomplish this goal is by encouraging flexibility to state agencies, shifting resources from the national office to our regional and local staffs to better assist state and local workforce boards. For years, the balance between Washington, D.C. and the states has been heavily lopsided toward the Beltway. We instead envision an approach that empowers state agencies to be proactive and let our regional offices serve them. We'll provide technical assistance, training, and oversight. We recognize that state agencies are vital to getting the job done, and the work happens at the local level. This is crucial. State workforce agencies must take advantage of the flexibility offered to them in order to fulfill their mission. Unfortunately, many state workforce agencies can feel trapped by confusion amongst federal funding streams, but I want to make clear the powerful flexibility that state workforce agencies can take advantage of today. For instance, in cases of natural disaster or other declared emergencies, states do not have to wait for a dislocated worker grant application before assisting those in need. They can and should immediately use their adult and dislocated worker money to serve these populations. They do not have to wait until a layoff is announced to use rapid response dollars. States should be proactive to minimize the impacts of layoffs and bankruptcies. We want to be a champion so state agencies can fulfill their mission. We can make difference together when we embrace a true partnership without a focus on who gets credit. Take, for example, the encouraging story of Jennifer Higgs, a woman who was helped by almost every level of federal, state, and local workforce agency. In 2018, Jennifer faced an uphill battle to obtain employment due to a criminal record and a lack of higher education. She'd also struggled with an opioid addiction. But when her mother responded to a White House survey to raise the issue of employment obstacles for returning citizens, Jennifer was quickly referred to the Department of Labor to help her find a job. The staff at ETA immediately sprang into action to help Jennifer, working closely with the North Carolina Department of Labor and Commerce and 2 local workforce development centers to find job placement. Jennifer was provided with scholarship options and enrolled in a 9-month HVAC program at Montgomery Community College. 3 weeks before she was even awarded a certification, Jennifer was hired by a local HVAC company as a technician. Stories like Jennifer highlight her character, and I'm sure that all in the room can relate and think of an example of someone who has a similar story. The Department of Labor is committed to remembering the forgotten men and women of America and lifting up all Americans through the dignity of work. But this can only happen when we are flexible enough in our approach to meet every challenge with every resource. Each person is unique, and so are their needs. Growing the American workforce and providing individuals with skills needed for the next generation economy can only be accomplished when we all work together. Whether it's through large employers, state workforce agencies, small businesses, community colleges, historically black colleges and universities, or tribal colleges and universities, leaders at the local level have a significant impact on the lives of our neighbors and community members. Because you serve at the front lines, you have great power and responsibility. With this power comes ownership of the workforce mantle in your state or local areas. For every state that is stepping up to take the lead, ETA will work to empower you to be successful. The future of work will look different for everyone, but when we work together to serve our customers, the American people, I know the future is bright. And the Deputy Secretary General and I were talking this morning about some of the challenges that we face in America and some of the things that OECD has looked into that we can learn from. I read a lot of stats this morning, and everyone seems to think that the economy is doing phenomenal, and it is. But my concern is what happens when the economy is not doing phenomenal. Are we as a workforce system prepared for what will be an invariable economic downturn? So working with the Deputy Secretary General and other organizations to take a look at some of the things that we're doing foundationally within our workforce is very exciting to me, because I'm concerned about the next downturn. The economy, the President's policies, we're doing fine now. But I've got to try to look out past the horizon and think, what happens when the economy isn't as strong? Are we prepared to pivot? Do states and local areas have the flexibilities they need? Are there things that we can learn from organizations such as OECD and other countries? You know, it's very American to say, well, Tennessee is very different than Georgia, and Georgia is very different than Alabama. It's a whole other thing for us to look internally and say, well, America is different than Switzerland, it's different than Germany. But that doesn't mean that we can't learn things from them. And one of the biggest examples of that is apprenticeship. I talked about that earlier. The amount of apprentices in this country compared to the amount of apprentices in other countries. So we are very much looking forward to working with the Deputy Secretary General on trying to figure out why employers in the U.S. are a little bit reluctant to take up the apprenticeship model. So it's things like that that we can learn from, not just at the state and local level, but internationally. What can we learn from groups such as OECD and others who are charting a path forward and looking at things that maybe we're not looking at in this country? And that to me is exciting, because as long as I'm in this job, I'm thinking about what's next. We seem to have things under control right now. As I mentioned, there's 7 million jobs out there and 5 million people looking for jobs. My concern is what happens when there's 5 million jobs and 7 million people looking for those jobs. That's what keeps me up at night. So I thank you all for being here. I thank you for the things that you're going to talk about today, the ideas you're going to discuss, and hopefully the plans and the path forward that comes from today's briefing. So I thank Scott and Anna for the invitation, and I look forward to hearing what the Deputy Secretary General has to say. So thank you very much.